Hello, hello, hello. A shitload of people already in the chat. It seems like there's a little bit more interest in the market than there has been in the last few weeks. As usual. Funny thing is, like, a lot more people listening now than last week or the week before. But those were the weeks that were actually important. And now there's not going to be that much useful shit that you're going to get. But, I mean, it is what it is, right? Just to get that out of the way, because I'm not a good breakout trader. So if you ask me where should I buy into this thing, I will not be able to tell you. The only thing that I can do is farm clout at this point, which is not really that useful, but it is what it is what it is. If you're watching and you're not subscribed, you're disappointing me, says Cred. True. The man speaks the truth. Need to have more followers on YouTube than BitBoy does. Probably not. I don't want to have the BitBoy curse, whatever that might be. Don't forget to ring that bell. Oh, Jesus. If you ever hear me say that, I mean, then it's over. That's proper over. I mean, technically you just heard me say it, so maybe it's over now. I don't know how that works, but yeah. I finally am making one of these live. I've been listening for years. Much appreciate your time. Appreciate you guys coming by. But yeah, a few things to talk about. So we'll have a little bit of interesting things. Not that much, honestly. The altcoin world is still pretty boring to me anyway. The only one that's really moving is Sol and Link, which is quite funny because those are the two altcoins that we have been mentioning every other week as being the two altcoins that you could buy. I didn't personally, so could have made more money on that front, but I'm quite happy with my positioning. So, but other than that, like altcoins boring, Bitcoin broke out, ETH very boring. So yeah, there is a little bit of content to be had. Why doesn't Cred ever farm clout? I don't know. He never does. I farm clout only. It's the only calling I have on Twitter is farming clout. But yeah, before we start, shout out to WooX for sponsoring the show. Really appreciate their support. Links to them are in the description. You should go check them out. And yeah, Jesus, chat is going for so fast, way too fast for me. I'm super tired, so we'll see what we can do. Anyway, let's start with Bitcoin, and then we can chat. We can have a little bit of fun. Go from there. So Bitcoin at monthly resistance, which is great, given I've been shilling it right into that monthly resistance, as any good influencer would. This is actually the area that is the riskiest, I would say. The problem with kind of like being bearish at this level is that if we break it, I would not know how to get back in, right? So for me, I'm not selling, even though it is resistance. It's the only real resistance on the chart, but I'm not going to sell, which I might regret later. But the simple reason for that is that I have no idea how I would get back into my position if, for example, the monthly went like this. And I think that is a possibility. And at that point, it would kind of suck, right? So I'm being a little bit greedy. I'm not playing from support to resistance. I'm playing from support, or like, I mean, that wasn't really support either when I bought at 16K. I'm playing from whatever the fuck this was to higher, hopefully. I mean, you never know, but that's kind of the plan. See how the monthly closes. We have 6 days left. If the monthly closes like this and we get a spike next week that gets rejected, there's a good chance that I would actually sell. That's too bearish of a setup not to. As in, like, let's say we close like this, we don't move the next 6 days, and then we rally all the way to 44, and I can see weakness. I'd be down to sell in that area. And then if it closes all the way back down below that level, I would be bearish. Like, that's the best way to get me bearish, but I'm not expecting it. I just thought I'd get that out of the way. There is a way to turn me bearish, and that would be that. Like imagine close here, we get an ETF approval for whatever reason next month, and that fully engulfs bearishly. The basically like sell the news kind of thing. Like I said, I'm not expecting it, but if that would happen, I'd be more inclined to be bearish. Right now, I'm happy to hold, but I'm happy to hold into resistance. So it doesn't have to be copy traded at all. It's just how I look at it. So yeah, that's the monthly. There's really not that much to say. Someone on Twitter asked me like, oh yeah, we're at monthly resistance, so I'm gonna get a chance to rebuy 23K. I think at this point, if this retraces all the way back down, like this basically, and this is a really shitty position to be in for all the bulls that want to buy lower, because if this retraces, I think it goes much lower. So basically, if we retrace this monthly candle and close below 27, I think we're gonna go to 20, as in like at least down here, if not lower. That'd be terrible. Like this is a breakout candle. It's a bearish retest on the range. I don't think 23K would hold at that point. So there is no real buy the dip level that you can get at this point on the monthly chart. Beyond, I think, 20 or 14, right? So if for whatever reason this plays out super hyper bearish, which I'm not expecting, but if it does, I'm not going to be the guy that catches it early. I don't think that makes much sense. So we're kind of in a ride or die situation. Like either this goes and we're going to go much higher, or it can go sideways. That's fine. But if we lose like any of these levels here, if we make a low below that, I think we're cooked for quite a while. So that's kind of my view on the monthly, which is for me very comfy because I bought into 27 and 28, right? Like I started buying at 28, bought all the way to 27, didn't get the bottom at all, but close enough. So that's quite comfy given if it comes back to my entry, I'm expecting it to go much lower. So that's a nice kind of thing to have when you don't have to be worried to kind of like sometimes your entry is a little bit high, especially when you buy on breakouts, right? And then your invalidation is quite a bit below your entry, even when it moves. In this case, I bought, it moved, and now given how it moved, I don't think we should come back where I bought unless I'm wrong. So I'm not going to lose money on this trade. Anyway, oh yeah, and then target wise, like if we break this level, I just think 60K is next, right? I don't think there's like I've seen a bunch of people like line up stuff in here. I think that's all crap. I think you come and reclaim the range. It's moon time. If you compare it to basically 2018, right? We had a consolidation. Same here, right? We had a breakdown. This was a little bit longer of a breakdown, but same. And then people were trying to short the retest, and that very much didn't go to plan. It completely went to the range high, which I have outlined here, right? So if it plays out the exact same way, you would basically be at range high in 2 months, which I think is not necessarily super likely, but it's possible. I think it's not like if we get good ETF news, I think that could be possible. But also we're at high time frame resistance right now. So don't want to get people hyped too much, especially given for some reason, at least when I look at Twitter, it looks like no one has positions. And if people watch me now and FOMO into resistance because they didn't buy earlier, would make me feel bad, right? So yeah, but it looks good. It looks good to me. It looks at resistance. Looks like it's at resistance, but fuck the resistances. We just ignore. We close our eyes and ignore. Anyway, that's the monthly. Like I said, let's pray to God that we play out the same way that we did back in 2018. That would be quite sweet. That would basically look like this and then bleed out and then go up, which actually doesn't seem too unlikely, just on a grand scheme of things, global, we have global problems, right? The macro situation is not the best. So if you got a spike, maybe we sell into it. Maybe not. Who knows? Anyway, that's that. That's the monthly. The weekly time frame, I kind of ran out of resistances, so I just drew a higher one just to make this seem like I actually am not completely biased, right? But just for completeness sake, this is how, or like whatever, just for your information, whatever, this is actually the chart that I'm using. I just added that line because it felt like I should have it. But in general, my view is that the range low is here. Any other resistances, supports, whatever, are kind of meaningless. It's the same thing as on the monthly, depending on how we trade there. Obviously, if we get a massive spike on the daily into like a level that kind of seems obvious, like whatever, like 45, maybe in here, maybe I'll take a trade, take some off, add on a retrace, because I think even if this goes up, we're going to get a nuke at some point because people are going to jump in with leverage. So far, I'm not seeing that much of that, but at some point that would happen. But yeah, this is my chart for now. If the weekly closes below here at 32K, that actually starts looking not great, right? Because then you would have a resistance kind of tested twice, traded above it, close below it. That would be bad news. It's another way to kind of get me a little bit more conservative, right? So there you go. It's not all biased. If we close at 32K this week, which only has 4 days left, that would not be great. And that's like, the thing is, this is set up for greatness, in my opinion. But also, if you look at the S&P, and especially today, like, it's been really shit. The S&P has been nuking. So if that continues and gets much worse, that could rain on the parade. And this is no guarantee that we're going to just go up, right? I think Bitcoin is super, super well positioned right now, chart-wise and narrative-wise, to go up. But if the S&P completely rugs, that could be stopped, right? So just saying, yeah, gotta be mindful of that. Like I said, there's no guarantees in trading, and there's no guarantee that you're gonna make money if you're buying into monthly resistance. We got SC calling for 10K on the timeline right now. Yeah, I mean, SC's been shorting every bottom. It is what it is. Anyway, do you think is still a position get it? What the fuck? Do you think is still a position get in if I haven't buy in? Jesus. I have no idea, dude. I'm bad at breakout trading. If you're buying into monthly resistance, like I mean, the reason why I bought, right, and this is something that I kept on saying on stream, the reason why I bought this on the lower time frames, that here, right, basically when we broke out here, I was like, this it seems interesting, and the weekly time frame basically was trading in this cluster as support, right? It used it as resistance here, and I was like, this should be support. It's interesting, and the only reason why I was like, I'm gonna have to buy this was because I just didn't see another level that I could get in, right? Like, I was like, if this breaks here out of this resistance, it's gonna go quite quickly, and there's not gonna be any retraces, and that happened, right? That's why I bought here. Now, I couldn't tell you the same here. We had 2 massive weeks of green. If you're buying here, there's a good chance that you just get nuked on. But also, like, I'm not willing to sell because to me it makes sense to go higher. So, like, I don't know. I cannot give good advice in those kind of circumstances. And I mean, I'm not here to give advice anyway. You have to make up your own mind. But this is why, like, a bunch of people always say that, oh yeah, you can get in on any trade. You just, like, if you miss one, just take the next. I think it's bullshit. There's just some trades, like, or like, it's not necessarily, like, obviously there's another trade down the line, but you cannot get in on every move, right? Like, sometimes you miss out on a move, and then, like, for example, here, Like, where the fuck did you buy here? Like, if you're like someone that buys retests or retraces, this broke out above 12K and then just literally went up only. The only kind of pullback was up here. And I mean, that's not necessarily something that you would be interested in buying if you were like sitting on the sidelines at 12K. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. So people are, I think, over eager to be like, oh yeah, you can trade it any way and you can jump on the move. I think that's bullshit. Sometimes you will not be able to, and I mean, that's okay, but you have to kind of know that, like, sometimes if you miss a move, if you missed a good entry, there's no good entry left, basically. So yeah. What do you think about Trump NFTs? I mean, I owned a bunch. Like, I owned actually quite a few, but then he made a new one. Like, he has several NFTs now, which makes them pretty much worthless. The thing with the Trump NFTs, right? Like, the reason why I sold it pretty much like down. I was like thinking, I was having a little bit fun with it, and I was actually trying to put the price to zero. Didn't quite manage to, but got quite close when I did. And the reason why I was like selling, I was like, whatever, I'll just write these off. Because if the Trump NFTs go up, this is the thing, right? So given that Trump launched the second NFT after the first one, when the first one was doing well, it just means that if any of these Trump NFTs do well, he's going to launch a new one. So basically, you're fucked anyway, because if it goes up, he's going to launch a new one, kind of nuking your investment. And if it goes down, you're obviously losing money. So there might be like a little bit of a move in those NFTs, but in general, he's literally going to just launch a new one and dump on you the moment he gets any interest in his NFTs, which is not great, which makes them, to me, kind of shitty. Otherwise, would have been quite interesting. I don't like Trump personally, but yeah. Anyway, that's that. That's the weekly time frame, right? As in, if we close above 32, the one thing that I could see if we close this week above is that we get like a nuke to 32. That maybe you get to buy next week, but I cannot guarantee it. But those would be, if I didn't have a position, that's where I would try to buy. Basically, the retest of this. There you go. That's for the people that really want an entry. I don't know if that would ever happen though, and I don't know if that would be a good buy. Like I said, I suck at breakout trading. I don't like it. I like to buy when it nukes 10 times more. If anything, I like to buy on low time frame breakouts that I can see roll into higher time frames. And something I've talked about, right? Sometimes you see the 4-hour chart, and so the 4-hour chart looks like this, and it starts coming back up, and you're like, oh, didn't buy the low. I want to just see if it kind of can come back into the 4-hour range. But then you look and you see basically that this is the 4-hour, but then in general, like the daily or something is in a massive range. And you're at range low here. 4-hour broke down, but the daily did not. And then like it breaks up and goes like, comes to resistance, whatever, breaks up here. And this is a move towards like range high, whatever. Those kind of range like breakouts, I don't mind too much because then you can basically like you buy this breakout, expecting this to go back to range high. And sometimes you're like, okay, maybe I can keep this if there's another higher time frame over the daily that does the same thing, right? And we had this at 16K where we got basically a setup for the 4-hour chart to break out, and if it broke out, it would break into like the daily would break out, and if that broke out, it would break out the weekly, and that's where this move came from. This was my thesis, right? But other than that, I'm not that great at breakout trading. It's just not something I do. What's your real alpha, Don? My real alpha is that there's no real alpha. No, I don't fucking know. There's not really that much more to my trading than what I say on here, which is quite funny. People always come to me and like, oh, can you tell me, like, can you like teach me this, teach me that? I want to pay you to teach me how to trade. And I'm like, dude, just watch my videos. There's literally, I could privately mentor you. I would never. I couldn't, like, fuck no. But I did that back in the day, like a couple of years ago, for like 2 or 3 people, and that was that. But it's just, I don't feel like it. But even if I did, it's just literally the same thing that I say on stream. That's how I trade. And the good thing is that I can say most of the stuff that I do because it's all high time frame. So even if you guys copy it, it's not like my edge goes away. And most people, even if they know how I trade and that it's been doing well, they would not copy my methods because they're way too impatient. So it doesn't really make a difference. Yeah. Okay. How many trades a month do you take? Depends. Oftentimes 0. Sometimes 1,000. Not really, like not 1,000, but sometimes like 200. So it really depends on the market conditions. Like, there's also this whole, like, while we're talking about like bullshit stuff that you see online. Like, whenever I see these people that are like, oh yeah, my one trade of the day, whatever is done. Like, it's such bullshit, right? You don't, like, that's not how it works. Like, trading is not like a job where you sit down and you have your one trade a day and then you can leave. If the conditions are right, then you have to, like, basically sit there and farm. And if the conditions are wrong, you don't get a trade. And sometimes you don't get a trade for months. And that's okay. Anyone that tells you should be trading every day just has something to sell to you, in my opinion anyway. Like, they're selling like a private group or whatever. This is not how it works in real life, at least in my experience. Now, obviously, other people might trade different to what I do, but I've not ever talked with a successful trader that trades like that. So is this the start of the bull? I have no idea. I just like the setup. I like how, like, we basically had a run up. Sentiment is still quite okay. Like, it's not euphoric at all. It's not like people are like, oh, 100K. I barely have anyone. Like, I don't think I see anyone talk about all-time highs, even though we're only a 2x away. That's in crypto land. The 2x away is like nothing. So, like, sentiment is not that bad, and we are more than likely to get an ETF. So I like the setup. We were back in the old trading range. We just need to close in it, and yeah, all of that combined is quite good. Whether this is the start of the next bull market or not, it remains to be seen. I have it titled as such, right? Like, I mean, reclaim of the range is pretty bullish to me. But yeah, looking to accumulate some alts. I mean, that's just most cursed words strung together. Anyone accumulating altcoins, like, every time I see this, I'm just like, okay, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. But that's because I don't really care about altcoins too much. I've seen too many people accumulate altcoins on their way to zero. No offense, but it's just something that where I'm like, okay, I don't really see it. Like, you just buy altcoins. Like, why would you need to accumulate? Like, sometimes the time is right and you just buy a bunch. You don't need to accumulate. DCAing into altcoins seems like a very, very shitty strategy to me. If you want to, like, people thought EOS was the next best thing, right? Quite a while ago. And the thing is, like, you DCA, now everyone agrees that it's not, right? Like, everyone knows, like, okay, fuck EOS. But, like, let's say back then you were, like, pre-sold on EOS, and then you DCA. Now it's at $2. You've DCA'd a shitload. Like, do you just sell? Probably not, right? You've DCA'd so long, you're just like, fuck it. I'm just going to DCA some more. And then you DCA. It's now at 0.5, underperforming everything. I mean, that's just not the way to go. Like, DCAing is going to make you into a believer no matter what you're DCAing. which is fair enough for a lot of things. That is not altcoins. But if you're like a believer in altcoins, good chance that you just go to zero. So, I mean, that's just my view, though. Like, it's the same with Litecoin, right? You see a bunch of people still chill and talk about Litecoin as if it's the best thing on the planet, while it's making new all-time lows against the Bitcoin pair, like on the Bitcoin pair. This looks horrendous, but if you DCate this, like, you're not gonna sell here. So you're kind of just stuck having to DCA further and further and further. And now you're down, like if you started and your average is up here or something, you're down like 80% against Bitcoin. Like, it's just not the greatest. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves. That's Bitcoin on the weekly. Bitcoin on the daily time frame is starting to be a little bit extended, right? We've had 2 weeks of basically straight up upside. There's been a bunch of green candles, and we're running into monthly resistance. That's where this sell pressure is coming from. I'm actually surprised that we're holding up so well, because one, the S&P's been nuking, and two, I mean, we're up a shitload. So daily time frame is running into a little bit of trouble. I'm surprised it's not more. Like, this makes me quite a bit bullish. Like, it's just, it should be much, much weaker. It's literally trading at monthly resistance while the S&P is nuking, and it's not doing anything. Like, it's just creeping higher on the daily time frame. Support and resistance levels, you can literally remove all of these. They're all meaningless now. We broke out is the only thing that matters. And we come back below 30K, that's kind of fucked at that point. Like, that would be horrendous. So that's the level that I'm going to keep. But everything else, just kind of like price exploration. I don't think any of these matter too much, because it's too far in the past. When you cannot see the candles itself anymore, it's just a line. It's too far away, and you have to kind of go up a time frame. So on this time frame, there's really not that much. But it was quite nice. You did actually get an entry low time frame on this rally, right? So we had this breakdown here. So this was the line on the chart. We had this breakdown here, reclaimed it with a massive candle, which was basically like the ETF, like the false ETF news candle that we got. And we had 2 days of pullback. That was the trade to take. That was the brain dead trade to take, in my opinion. Something I tweeted about a lot, where I was like, you're seeing the future. Like, this was basically a bunch of people being poorly positioned for the ETF, FOMOing in. I think they're going to FOMO in more, right? And that's kind of what we got. And that's where this kind of rally is coming from. So that was quite a nice rebuy. If you didn't buy that, there wasn't really another chance on the daily time frame. So all is good on Bitcoin for now. Like I said, we are battling monthly resistance. That's going to provide some resistance. I hope we'll break it. But yeah, don't get too excited. Don't get too bearish. Just, I want to see how this closes. So 6 days to go on that front, and then we'll see. On the ETH side of things, that actually looks kind of shit still. We'll ignore ETH/USD for a sec, and we'll look at ETH BTC. I don't care about the monthly here, but the weekly time frame looks kind of shit. It's approaching support. It's approaching the line that I've been talking about for, I think it's a year now, maybe two. This kind of uptrend line, I think that's an interesting area. If anything, like, I've seen a bunch of people try to knife catch this over the last few weeks. I don't understand why. My thinking is, right, like, we're getting, more than likely, we're getting a Bitcoin ETF, right? So that's Bitcoin specific. That's not necessarily crypto specific. It's Bitcoin specific, right? And if we get good flows on Bitcoin, we don't necessarily have to get them on the altcoins. But the one coin where I don't expect to get any flow based on this is ETH. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Because the altcoin traders are like, there's a bunch of really dumb altcoin traders, right? They're the 50 IQ meme, right? This one where you have the IQ curve, whatever, and then you have the 50 IQ people here, the 150 IQ, or like 80 and 130, doesn't really matter, right? And then the 100 here in the middle, right? And the ETH people are basically too smart to be in here, right? So the dumb altcoin people, they're gonna be like, Bitcoin ETF, good for the market. Altcoins are gonna go up, so they're gonna buy their shit, right? Which is gonna, like, I could see those dumb altcoins to like going up, and I mean, there's something we've been seeing. Pepe, for example, it's up 25% on the day. It's basically the most retarded shit is going up. Now, ETH is firmly in here, and the smart people are just gonna buy Bitcoin because, I mean, they're like, almost everyone is underexposed to Bitcoin. There's a Bitcoin ETF, so you don't really have anyone that is gonna be dumb or smart enough. Like the dumb people are not gonna buy it; they're gonna buy dumb shit. The smart people are not gonna buy it because they're gonna focus on Bitcoin. The only people that you might get to buy this thing is like not even really. Like, you'd have to be some kind of like completely missing the point if you think that there's any kind of good reasoning to buy ETH when you get a Bitcoin ETF. I don't even know, like maybe you have to be like all the way down at the scale below 50 IQ. Anyway, like, it's not dumb enough is my argument to appreciate based on something like this. The other altcoins might be. So other altcoins, fair enough. Like, if you go down the barrel, fair enough. ETH just like, it just doesn't seem likely. It seems like Bitcoin would steal the bid from ETH, if anything, right? Because ETH is serious, and so is Bitcoin. And then if a bunch of people buy Bitcoin, that's not going to be that good for ETH. And that's what we've been seeing, right? That's been my argument for the last few months. Now, that's obviously starting to get a little bit extended. ETH is down quite a lot. But the first area that I could even see this be like a decent buy is around this trend line. But I'm not going to buy the trend line. If anything, I want to see a reclaim of sorts of this range, or basically up here. We've reclaimed this. I'm down to buy it, and I'm down to go for the flipping. I'm going to be down to bull post with the ETH tards. But for now, like, the narrative isn't there. ETH's too sophisticated to be bid. And then, like, all of that combined with just the chart being horrendous, like one of the worst charts that we've seen, right? And this is me being very, very charitable, because technically, like, if you ignore everything, we've been in a range for almost like 2.5 years, basically, and we broke that to the downside. Like, buying that at that point just seems very fucking stupid. Like, this is a 2.5 year range that just broke to the downside. Like, that's just as bearish as it gets. The only reason why people even talk about this is because it's ETH. I don't even think anyone throws up ETH BTC. They throw up ETH USD and they're like, oh yeah, this is not too bullish, but it's not too bearish either. And it's ETH, it has to go up because Bitcoin is going up, right? But I mean, that's just, you can do that, and you made like a little bit of money in the last 2 weeks. You're basically back to prices from 70 days ago, whereas Bitcoin, like, if you go back 70 days, where's 70 days? Okay, so Bitcoin is like technically, depending on how we look at it, is like up 30% in that time, where ETH just came back to zero. I mean, you can just look on ETH BTC, basically, how much is just down, and that's like 30%. And that's quite bad, right? You basically missed the entire rally if you're an ETH holder. And people are still convinced that this is going to turn around. And to be honest, I want to buy ETH when that's not the case anymore, when people are not convinced anymore. Because all I am seeing is that, like, a bunch of people posting about ETH is going to turn around So my buys are safe, and that's not the narrative I want to have when I'm buying something that is going parabolically down, right? This is literally going like 1, 2, 3% a day down for the last few weeks. Like that's just like if I wanted to buy something, like if I wanted to buy ETH while it looked like this, I would at least want the narrative to be like, fuck, we're getting fucked and it's bad. But it's not, right? People are just like, oh yeah, it's okay. Bitcoin is gonna go up, and then we're gonna have our time. And I want to see that gone. I don't like that kind of narrative. I don't like buying into basically like a bunch of people that are completely mispositioned that still have a bunch of hope, right? Like I want to see them lose hope, and then I think it's a good buy. So depending on where that is, I'm just gonna buy whenever I see a massive candle to the downside or bullish action, as in like some sort of reclaims. And even if you go on the lower time frames, literally every single green candle, and there's not that many, I've seen people post about, oh, it's finally time for ETH. I mean, there's barely any green candles to speak of, and I've seen more ETH posts than I've seen Bitcoin posts, really. And I think the reason why sentiment is so bad is because people are like all in ETH. And you have a shitload of people all in ETH while we're getting a Bitcoin ETF. It's puzzling to me, but it's just how it goes. Ralph says 880 ETH. No. I mean, I think ETH goes up on the USD pair. I just think it underperforms massively on the Bitcoin pair, as long as Bitcoin goes up. If Bitcoin goes down, obviously all of this goes a little bit out the window, and then maybe you get lower prices. One worrying thing for the ETH people, I think, has been that on days where Bitcoin hasn't been doing too well, ETH has not been necessarily outperforming either. So you are really backed in the corner on ETH here, and I want to see that play out first. So that's my view on ETH. Solana is one of the ones that we kept on talking about. And that's like, look at the difference here. That's the Solana Bitcoin chart, and you have a low here, a higher low here, somewhat of a higher low here, and you made a new high, right? So this is like an emerging uptrend against Bitcoin while Bitcoin is ripping. And then you have ETH here, which is literally just down only in a downtrend. That's quite tough. Now I'm not holding Solana. I'm not holding Link. Those are the two altcoins that I've been talking bullishly about in the last few weeks. The reason why is because I don't see the point holding altcoins when we're getting a Bitcoin ETF. Seems like gambling to me. Now obviously this gamble would have played out, but that's okay by me. I don't need to get every altcoin move. For me, it's important that I get the Bitcoin moves, right? Like if I get the Bitcoin moves right, at some point I can still rotate into the altcoins. And if not, I'm also completely okay with just missing the entire, like if I get the Bitcoin moves right, I don't need the altcoins to go right. I can just ignore them entirely. It's cool by me. Now, a bunch of people are like stressing whenever they see an altcoin move without them in them. For me, like if Solana went to 200 and I wasn't in it, I'd be like, cool. There's gonna be more money in the FTX estate for people to get. Like that be my main thought. Like I wouldn't worry too much. I don't like. It's not like for me. Like this is all like when you go down the altcoin list, it's all basically something that's gonna go to zero eventually. So no matter where it goes in between, doesn't really matter. It's obviously nice when you catch the moves, and but yeah, you don't have to. Anyway, Solana USD knocking on heaven's door here again. I think that should break, same as what Link did, as long as Bitcoin can keep holding up. So Solana looking good. On the USD pair, it keeps on making higher lows. If you look on the monthly time frame, I mean, this is a weekly resistance, not a monthly. Oops. That is quite nice. You have an impulse, then you have a bunch of sideways, and now you have a second one. I like this chart, right? Like if I had to buy an altcoin, still, even at this point, I'd be Solana. and if we link, the other ones I don't like too much. Link, same story. You have sideways a bunch, you have a breakout. It's not that bad. And the reason why I say link is quite nice is because it's doing the same thing against Bitcoin, right? So it's been a downtrend, but on a little bit more zoomed in scale, it's been starting to walk up. Anything that's been outperforming Bitcoin in the last few weeks is showing considerable strength, and the link has done that. In general, if I'm right on Bitcoin and it rips, right, I think even Solana and Link will give back a lot of the gains that they made against on their Bitcoin pairs, right? But that's going to be dips to buy. So if Bitcoin really rips, as in like from 35 to 50, I think those altcoins would not do as well. But at that point, like if you get closer towards the range high, I'm going to be more than willing to rotate into some shitcoins. But we have to get quite close to 60K for me to do that. And me talking about 60K is obviously the worst top signal of them all, given we're trading at 30. But that's just the only resistance that I have, right? So I'm just gonna go from there. But first, obviously, have to break this one. Were you always the stoic in your approach, or did you have a greedy phase in trading? I think everyone had a greedy phase in trading, but my greedy phase was in 2017, and that was quite well timed. And then, so basically when Bitcoin was going completely nuts, I was quite greedy, and that turned out quite well. And then I got disillusioned by crypto because nothing worked. So I was like, got really, really bearish. And ever since then, like so basically I was like a big believer in crypto, or like big, but I was somewhat of a believer in crypto on the run up. And then like around 13, 14, 15K, I noticed that nothing in crypto actually worked. And ever since then, my stance has been more pessimistic. So basically I dodged that like too greedy phase by just being like a Debbie Downer on the crypto stuff, which served me quite well. I usually make much less money in bull markets than other people do. It's just a thing. But during bear markets, it's very rare that I give back like a large portion of my gains. Like I usually my portfolio basically looks like this, or my winnings basically look like this. Like you get like the bull markets and it goes up, and then you get a bear market and it dips a little bit, and then it just basically goes sideways, and then you keep going back up again. And basically what other people's winnings look like is this. Right? Maybe not even coming back to the highs. I literally, like, this would destroy me. I cannot live like that. But some people can. Like, they go from 100K to 10 million, back to 150K, back to 11 million, back to like 200K. I've seen this, and I would literally die, I think. I would just quit it. For me, I would much rather do $1 into 10, into 9, into more. Like, this is better for me, better for my psyche, better for everything. So that's how it usually goes for me. Like, I don't lose much money in the bear markets, but I make much less in the bull markets as well, just by being like, I look at these protocols, I'm like, this is just garbage. I look at governance tokens, and I'm like, why the fuck would anyone buy this? Is like completely stupid. But in bull markets, that doesn't really matter. So like the most dumb shit goes up a shitload. And then I might get a 2x, a 3x, a 4x on an altcoin, but I will never sit there and take the 100x that other people might. Because for me, like, I get a 4x and I'm like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever had, and I got a 4x. Let me dump everything and come back in a year or two. So yeah. Don, does ETH BTC going down mean there's selling going on, or just that it's not keeping up with Bitcoin? If so, why is it bearish bad? No, I like ETH BTC going down is good for the market, I think. I think the moment we go from the moment basically the idiots that actually buying like ETH, no offense, right? Like if you own ETH, I mean, if you're like an investor, whatever, be my guest. I like ETH better than like 99% of the other altcoins, right? But like the moment people that are buying ETH get rewarded, I think that's getting close to the top, at least on a shorter time frame. So basically, like if you get a spike here to up here, I would actually be much more careful with my Bitcoin positioning, because at that point you're getting froth back in the market. I think right now what we have is a very little froth. Like you see the altcoins like beyond Solana and Link, most of this shit is down a shitload actually, and stupid altcoin gambling has been decreasing a shitload, and that like altcoin gambling is basically a sign of froth every time. But we're not having any of that. So people are just basically disillusioned by the space, getting their ass handed to them on the altcoin front. Barely anyone is levering up on Bitcoin. Like that's all good things. So ETH BTC going down is a good thing for me. The moment it turns around is where I'm going to be much more careful. Now there's obviously going to be like the moment ETH BTC turns around, there's going to be much more money to be made in general, but only for a short time, right? So basically ETH BTC going up puts us on a timer, I think. The moment that runs, we're getting close to a temporary top. That's my kind of thing. So when I think about it, basically, as long as ETH BTC is bleeding and dying, there's still fuel left in the tank. So that is kind of how I look at it. Doesn't have to be right. I'm literally a duck on the internet. Don't take any of this too seriously. It's just my thinking. So equities look like they're about to nuke. Yeah, I mean, equities look like shit. But then again, like this is exactly what we've been talking about too. It's actually quite funny that I've been right on equities. I'm glad I didn't listen to my, like basically to my, like I was like, this is probably going to go down, the equities. I've been saying basically we're going to go sideways on the S&P. We're going to go sideways on a bunch of shit. And we had a little bit of a throw back into resistance, back above resistance. But at the end of the day, like that's what I always expected. And it's what we've been talking about, right? And I'm glad I didn't transfer that to crypto, right? Because otherwise I would have missed on this pump and I would be sidelined and coping right now. But in general, like I'm expecting this to go sideways for a while. Like I'm not expecting too much on this front. I don't really, like people are like, its stock market has to go up, blah, blah, blah. But I think we could be going sideways for a year, 2, 3 easily on the stock front. The good part is that we have a narrative that could push Bitcoin up regardless. The bad news is that if S&P and like all of these like stocks don't make new all-time highs, there's a good chance like that even if we broke out, even if we went to 60K, that would basically be it. Which is more than fine for me. Like that 2x is heavenly. After this 2x already, like I was already euphoric from 16 to 30K, right? Like that was one of my best trading years in my career already. So I'm more than happy with what I got already. But if we get like another one of those 2x's, then that's gonna be, especially given that then I think we get like a little bit of altcoin action afterwards to kind of round the party out. That make me more than euphoric, right? So there is possibilities here, but I would like to see S&P and not completely nuke because I think that could ruin it. But yeah, it's kind of going as expected. I'm not expecting new lows here. I'm not expecting anything on that front. It did make a lower high, and it did fail to hold both cluster support and kind of like this kind of whatever support. So not looking too great, but I think this should take a while. And I think as long as it doesn't completely disappear, we're somewhat safe given our narratives. But could be wrong on that front. Got to be a little bit nimble. If we start nuking, we start nuking. So we'll see. My entire financial future rests on offhand comments made by a duck on the internet. Oh, shit. I mean, it's just... The thing is, right? Like, I've had a really good run. I've had a really, really good run in the recent history, right? I would say I did not play the 2020 breakout COVID thing as well as like most people played it better than me. I got on board, but I got on board shittily and made not nearly as much as other people. But everything afterwards, like the nuke from here to here, the rally into like the all-time high and the entire nuke down, and now the bonds, that has been really well. Like I've traded all of that really well, but that's like obviously like win streaks come to an end, right? And I had like I had times where I just didn't make as much as other people, and I've had times where I was actually offside, believe it or not, and that's gonna come back, right? So don't just copy trade whatever the fuck I do. I think that's a fool's game at the end of the day. You're not always gonna have a duck around to tell you what to do. So you said that you transferred most of your money to TradFi. I did actually. I have like I don't know percentage wise, but I like a large chunk I pulled out of the market. So basically, so like how this played out. Like I bought 16K with way too much. Actually got me like I was actually like a little bit stressed, which I usually am not. Because I bought too much. It rallied and it rallied a lot, and I made more than I should have, given my position size was much larger than it should have been, and I pulled all of that out and then some on the way up. So basically like around 30K I was like buying a shitload of TradFi stuff, and still the case, and I don't plan on putting any new money into crypto, but I basically went all in this Bitcoin trade with the money that I was allowing myself to do. So it's been a nice trade. It's not the biggest, it's not as big as back when I was trading from 60K to 30K, but it's still quite big. But yeah, I'm in general. So basically what I do with every passing year is I pull more money, like my portfolio in general for basically the longest time was just 100% crypto. For multiple reasons, right? So first, I was fucking poor before I got into crypto. I mean, for the people that don't know, I started with like $2,500 in total in crypto-ish. And I've never, I never put in more money than that. As in, like, I never added any real-life money to the pie. And every year, I just take money out of the market anyway, right? So basically, it's not like I'm doing DCA in. What I'm doing is DCAing out as this has been progressing, if you want to call it that. I've just taken, like at the start, basically, I just took taxes and a little bit out. And nowadays, like I make gains and I take most of it out. And I try to keep my portfolio, my crypto portfolio relative to my real life portfolio to be shrinking. As in, like, I want less crypto and more other things because I already have more than enough crypto. And I'm not a big believer in crypto in general. So, like, I'm just literally sitting here like a parasite sucking out blood of the crypto ecosystem is what it is. But it's just something I'm good at, trading it. And that's basically what I look at it. Like when I see free money in the crypto market, I take it and I put it somewhere else because it's never safe in crypto, in my opinion. So that's kind of like, that's how I look at this whole journey of mine. And if crypto changes the world, I'm always going to have enough. Like what I don't understand, like people like Sailor, right? Like they buy a shitload and they're like, Bitcoin is going to infinity. But then I'm like, you don't need it. Like you don't need all of this crypto if you think it's going to infinity, right? Like if you think Bitcoin is going to 1 million, like if you have 50 Bitcoin, I mean, what do you want to do with, like, why do you want to have 50,000? Like you're probably going to be fine with 50. Especially if you think it's going to go higher than that. So like with Sailor just buying everything, I think the way, like when you do this, you make it less likely to succeed. And if it succeeds the way you think it will, you're gonna be the richest man on the planet anyway. So I don't really get that, but apparently people just want more and more and more and more. Binance insolvency could cause a very significant drop for Bitcoin, maybe new lows. Yeah, if you expect Binance to go to zero, then you should probably not have any crypto. As in, you should probably be entirely out of the market and trading the S&P or whatever. I don't expect Binance to go to zero. I think there is a chance. I've seen some things in what Binance does that had me worried, especially in the early years. But I think the chances of them blowing up are quite low, but there's obviously always a chance. So like, I don't personally have any money on Binance. I don't like Binance. Like, it's more of a, I don't like them over I'm worried that they're going to implode kind of thing. But I don't have any money on Binance. And if they imploded, then there's a good chance we would go to 20K, yes. So yeah, that's that. So TLDR, everything looks good. We are at resistance, or like not everything, just Bitcoin, but we are at resistance. We need to break it before going higher. Altcoins kind of look like crap. And me saying that will get me into shit again. So let's just look at Bitcoin dominance. That's a pretty severe uptrend. And this is something, I hate this metric, and I hate it because it's basically skewed in favor of altcoins, right? So when Bitcoin dominance, like this includes stable coins, this includes like a bunch of shit, right? Altcoins are inflationary, not only themselves, right? For example, Dogecoin is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. And there's no cap, but also just because you can have infinite amounts of altcoins, right? So Bitcoin dominance is supposed to trend to zero. And the fact that it actually like massively rallied is quite a wild sign, right? That's a shitload of money leaving the altcoin ecosystem, because technically this should just bleed out and approach zero over the years. But yeah, so when I say altcoins are doing poorly, I mean on average. Obviously, Link has been doing well, Solana has been doing well. Funnily enough, those two are the ones that we've been talking about, obviously. And the two that I don't own, so is what it is. But yeah, I'm expecting, if I'm right on Bitcoin, altcoins are gonna bleed more. But I'm expecting also, if I'm right on Bitcoin, that there's gonna be a massive shift into altcoins coming once the altcoins have died enough. Me personally, if that should happen, like if Bitcoin actually breaks the range low here and goes towards the range high, I'll probably focus on ETH. And I'll probably focus on maybe Solana, Link, Aave. Yeah, those are the ones that I'm probably going to look at. I'm too boomer for everything else. So a bunch of you in the chat will outperform me as usual. So that's kind of the game plan. And if it doesn't work, and if everything dumps because we're retesting resistance, I'll just pretend this stream never happened. And I think that's pretty good. It's a pretty good strategy. Could you look at Bitcoin Cash, please? Yes, it's an altcoin, so I'm expecting like that's the thing, and it's something I've kept on talking on the stream, right? Like I like Bitcoin Cash chart perspective wise, but this is quite like it's an altcoin. I'm expecting every altcoin to bleed on the Bitcoin pair, right? So on the USD pair, Bitcoin Cash looking quite cash. On the Bitcoin pair, as everything else, that's actually not that nice. Made a new low. Trying to break these lows, not great. It's one of the ones that I might buy if my thesis comes true and Bitcoin rallies massively. Just because it's basically one of the 4 coins that the boomers can buy. Bitcoin, Litecoin, ETH, Bitcoin Cash, basically the ones that the boomers have access to, and I'd be down for that. So I don't like Litecoin, just generally don't like it. I trade it a lot, but I don't like it. So I'd be focusing on Bitcoin, ETH, and Bitcoin Cash out of those 4. But right now it's no coins. I'm expecting it to underperform. So not great on the Bitcoin pair, quite good on the USD pair. But for me, it's not yet time to rotate into altcoins. Are you spot only? Yes, I have like a challenge account going on Woo where I trade spot margin, but all of my positions are basically spot. There's no leverage. Coinbase as a TradFi proxy to BTC. I don't like the proxy trade. If I'm bullish Bitcoin, I buy Bitcoin. I don't want to overcomplicate it. It's not like we're getting a Coinbase ETF. Like, you know what I mean? As stupid as it sounds, like I just like to buy Bitcoin in those circumstances. I know that like you get Bitcoin miners and whatever that outperform Bitcoin if Bitcoin goes up. I really don't give a shit. I'm happy if Bitcoin goes up when I own it. Like people always try to like 5D, 6D, 7D chess it. I'm too dumb for that. Just let me buy things that I'm bullish on directly, the thing that I'm actually bullish on, and that's that. Like I don't wanna overcomplicate it. Like it's in my opinion, the people that are trying to overcomplicate it are the exact people that have been buying ETH and are down 30% now. Like they're like, oh, Bitcoin goes up because of the ETF. So the ETH ETF is next, and then I can outperform Bitcoin, and I can front run all of these people. At the end of the day, they all get dumped on, and they're all gonna capitulate. Like it's just not for me. I like to keep it simple. How do you actually trade? Spot, leverage, spot. But yeah, that's that. I think that's enough for today. My voice is going and I'm still very tired. So I'll keep it to the hour. It's actually been an hour. Quite crazy. Time flies. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by. Always fun. Big shout out to Woo for sponsoring the show. And yeah, appreciate you guys coming by. Like Cred said at the beginning of the show, subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. If you don't like it, don't subscribe. Then I don't want to ever see you here again. Fuck all of the people that don't like the show. Go away, do something else, leave me alone. But yeah, appreciate you guys hanging out. It's been fun. Have a nice rest of your day, week, evening, whatever it is. We'll see each other around. Bye bye.